So let's move to the next presentation, which is also about ocean. So may I introduce Ms. Maxine CUTRACCI and also Ms. Sarah Taylor. The topic of the presentation is Building a Marine Science Curriculum, a case study evaluating the effectiveness of live aquaria to enhance science education and ocean literacy.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Maxine CUTRACCI. I work at the Harbour School as a marine science specialist. And my colleague, Sarah Taylor, she works as a manager of the Marine Science Center. Today we are speaking about this facility that has opened in our school here in Hong Kong last year. And first I want to give you a short introduction about why we should teach marine science in schools. We have seen how the United Nations, among the goals for sustainable development, they mention how one important goal is to protect and conserve the biodiversity of ocean and coastal environment. And the Convention on Biological Diversity, they mention how by 2020, everyone should be aware of the importance of biodiversity and why we should protect it. We have seen that since the 70s, we have seen a 50% decline of marine population in the world, especially here in Hong Kong. We see how fisheries really impacting the ecosystem. We have seen a growth of different NGO and organizations such as Oceana or WWF or Ocean Conservancy protecting the marine environment. However, we haven't seen this in schools still. Today, the students that learning today, they will face big challenges in the future because the job market keeps changing. So they will need to have new skills in order to be innovative and be able to be successful in the future. They have to learn new skills such as creative thinking, critical thinking, problem solving. They need to be able to work as part of a team. We've seen this in the previous presentation. And they need to be more innovative and not just be consumers, but actually create technology and science. That's why different subjects as in STEAM, so science, technology, engineering, and arts, and math, they should be integrated together. Marine science, why should marine science be part of the curriculum in school? So as we said, the ocean basically covers 70% of our planet, and we depend on the ocean for our survival. Since the 70s, different educators mention how there is a lack of marine science in schools, and they mention how someone cannot be science literate or environmental literate if he's not literate in ocean science. We should actually increase, we should develop marine science and make it possible that ocean literacy becomes part of curriculum and textbooks and assessments, because otherwise students are not aware of the reality where they live. We constantly hear problems such as climate change, overfishing, ocean acidification. So students should actually learn about this topic at school and be able to face the reality once they will become adults. In that way, they will be able to make a difference. So a few years ago in the United States, in North America, they've started ocean literacy. So a few educators, they got up together and they basically developed these 7 principles. The first one is that we should be aware that we have one ocean with different features. The second one mentions how the ocean shapes our planet. The third says that the ocean has a very big influence on weather and climate. The fourth says the ocean makes the earth habitable, so we actually depend on the ocean. The ocean makes possible a very high diversity. As we all know, we all basically come from fish, so life developed in the ocean, and still so many people are not aware of this. The sixth principle is that the ocean and humans are linked together. Think about fish, how we depend on it, how so many people, they're able to get new nutrients just because of fishery. And then the ocean is largely unknown. We only know a few, like a very small part of the ocean, and still we keep discovering new species every day. So we still have to make a big, like a big difference, right? So when we were in high school, or like in primary, I never learned about the ocean. When they were teaching us about the climate or the weather, they didn't mention that it depends on the sea, right? So the students should know, learn about this today. Different authors, as we said, like they start speaking about this, so it's still very well developed. I mean, it is now developing very well in the United States, but it's not in Asia. So in Asia, still so many cities, so many schools, they don't teach anything related to marine science. We have these 2 case studies that we got from Japan, where basically they realized how introducing the students to nature, taking the students out on the coast to do activities and to interact with fishermen, learn about fishery, increase the interest of students in science and the interest in nature. So students actually realize they really like nature and they like to be outdoor. That's why now I hand it to Miss Sarah Taylor. She will explain about the Marine Science Center.
Hello. So we opened the Marine Science Center in April of last year, and it's an aquarium and laboratory facility focused on education and outreach. We have touch tanks, aquaria, and use high-tech support systems to help clean the water and keep the fish safe. So through education and outreach, the Marine Science Center provides a scientific perspective of the world to all students in all ages. A little bit about the Harbour School. We are from prep all the way to high school, so ages 4 all the way to 18, and they all get to experience the Marine Science Center. So our touch tank has horseshoe crabs, bamboo sharks, echinoderms like sea stars, sea urchins, and sea cucumbers, and all these animals live in tidal pools or in shallow benthic water. And this gives students an experience to see them up close, to touch them, and really gain an empathy for animals that they otherwise wouldn't have. Especially in Hong Kong, I've been here a year and a half, that you can see sea animals everywhere. They're always at the wet markets, but actually being able to touch them and pet them and observe them, you gain more appreciation for their life cycle and more for their biology. We have a community tank, so this is a big aspect of our outreach. We wanted to have a big window. If anyone has an aquarium, that's always difficult, but we wanted for the public around our school to be engaged in what we were doing. So we have this community tank where we have large local species where instead of at a restaurant, you can actually look and see the tank from the outside. It was really cute. We have a preschool across the street, and we arrange for them to come to little field trips to come and look at the Marine Science Center so we can engage the local community, not just our students. Okay, we have a coral tank. A lot of people might not know this, but Hong Kong has the most coral in China. We have lots of different soft and hard corals that are very quickly disappearing from the coast. Up in Sai Kung, you can still go diving and see lots of corals, but even around Llama Island and Middle Island, there are still corals that you can find if the visibility is good. So our coral tank is very important. We also have high school students that do research on corals and how they react to temperature change and salinity change and turbidity change inside the lab that they can then write their research papers about. Our jellyfish tank, so we have moon jellies. That's just actually really cool to look at. They're pretty easy species to keep. And they are found all over the world. So this is an interesting species because they can live anywhere, pretty much at any depth. Okay, so one of our favorites, we have this research rack where different students can write a proposal to do their own research, and then they can utilize the tanks to do things like, right now we have students studying the dissolved oxygen in the water and how that affects fish when you change the temperature. And we have another student studying the coral when you change the salinity and the temperature and how resilient it is after the temperature change. Also with the Marine Science Center, we're in charge of planning field trips school-wide. So we plan field trips to wetland parks, sandy and rocky shores, mangroves. We also have a boat with the school called the Black Dolphin. I'll show you a picture in a moment. That we take students out to learn how to sail and how to take weather parameters. We also take field trips every year to the tropical islands in Asia, and also we just recently went to California so we could compare what the social economic impact of the government enforcing marine conservation does to the ecosystem compared to just relying on nonprofits. Lots of our students go out and conduct surveys. They do transects, quadrats. We also participate in Reef Check Hong Kong and are assigned a site up in Sai Kung that we participate in every year. Okay, so our outcomes, just quickly from the field trips, is that they have a deeper understanding of local species and their importance. This is one of our students holding a baby horseshoe crab, you can see in his hand. So this is up in Pak Nai, where they're actually doing research on oyster farms and the relationship between oysters and mangrove horseshoe crabs. All right, so the application of science skills, and they can see nature from a different perspective. All right, so this is up in the Pak Nai oyster farms. So our boat, the Black Dolphin, is a sailboat, and we use this. Every single student in the school gets to go on the boat at least 3 times a year. And even if it's not science related, it's an amazing opportunity for students to get out. If you're from Hong Kong and you live here, you might know that lots of students don't go outside very often. So this is a great opportunity for younger students to get outside, get out of their comfort zone, and learn something hands-on, tactile. Oh, they also get to collect real data. We have lots of water measuring equipment, water sampling parameters. They even go snorkeling from the boat and learn how to use the compass and how to navigate. This is a small plankton net that we just pull behind for a second, and then we collect plankton samples and look at them under the microscope. So there's another picture of the black dolphin. Okay, so then in class, after these field trips, we practice a lot of identification of species and classification, and so they can understand like vertebrates versus invertebrates and what role they play in the ecosystem. And they're able to look at animals from a biological point of view, so really understanding, why does this crab have this appendage? Why does this fish swim with these fins? And really gaining deep appreciation for the animals themselves, instead of just basically looking at them as food, looking at them as for their ecosystem services. And we also perform dissections, so it's actually really great to have wet markets everywhere, because you can easily find animals for the kids to dissect, and they love dissections, surprisingly. So we dissect every phylum, so we try to divide it up into phylums. So, squid one day, fish another day, mollusks, echinoderms. Okay, and then also the whole goal, everything that we try to do, we want to engage in teamwork and group work, having them assign their own duties to each other and really work together. Okay, and then we're going to show you a quick video. The video?
Which video?
It was the Harbour School.
This one?
Yes. Okay, and this is just a short video. Oops, sorry. I do. It's right there.
This one? No. This one.
Okay, so I'm going to hand it over. Okay, so I'm going to hand it back over to Maxine. At our school, we did a survey. So since the Marine Science Center has been open for about a year and a half, we surveyed all the students to see what impact coming to the Marine Science Center has had on their interest in science and on their ocean literacy.
Okay, so we see that we gave this survey to different students. The age is between 11 and 20 years old, so primary and high school students. And most of the students who filled the survey, they came to the Marine Science Center at least once or like 3 times. Some of them, they came every day because they were taking a class in marine biology, and some of them, they were doing a research at the Marine Science Center, coming twice a week. We have seen that the results, basically, here the values are from 1 to 5. So 1, not very important, 5, very, very important. So we asked the students how important are ocean ecosystems, and the majority of them, 66%, they said that the ocean ecosystems are very important. 78%, they said how the ocean is very important to human life, so they realized how we depend on the ocean. And 83% of the students mentioned how it's very important to protect the ocean. We have seen how teaching about marine science, students gain knowledge in marine biology and biological classification. So they know, for example, that horseshoe crab is related to like arthropods and to crustaceans more than other animals. They realize the relationship between animals, such as symbiosis. They also know more about ocean ecosystems. For example, the deepest part of the ocean is 11,000 meters. The fact that there is a lot of life in the deep ocean, and every day we keep discovering new species. So many people, they think deep ocean is just empty, but actually it's full of life. And also they realize the 7th important principle of ocean literacy, which is that we basically don't know enough about the ocean. So only like less than 5% of the ocean has been explored, and 88% of the students know this. So maybe in the future they will choose a career in marine biology. And also that new animals continue to be discovered every day. Just recently, actually like last year, they discovered a new species of mangrove crab in Hong Kong. This is very important because it mentions how you should study marine biology not only if you want to become a scientist. You should study marine biology because you depend on the ocean. So even if you don't want to be a scientist, still you should know about the ocean. Okay, we gained a few results from opening this Marine Science Center. Maybe Miss Sarah, she wants to give her opinion.
Okay, so we saw just from we are not teachers, we are marine biologists. So coming into a school and really seeing the impact that we had on the students and their interest in science was interesting to us, and that's why we conducted this survey and this case study. So basically, we have a couple students I want to mention that were in high school, really struggling, didn't know if they were going to get into university. One in particular, he became our intern, so he came during our summer camps and he helped us, and then for the entire year, he was our intern, helping us take care of the animals and change the water in the tanks. And with that experience and with his internship, he got into his first pick university in the UK. So that type of impact to show that he didn't even want to go to college, and then he came and worked with us and really gained an appreciation for marine biology, and then decided to go to university for it. In the primary ages, the really young students, they get really excited, and so it's increased the interest in science. So we've seen students that aren't very good at school, but then somehow develop a relationship with science, and all of a sudden science becomes their favorite subject because they have these avenues of field trips and aquariums around them at all times. And then we've seen that they have a realization about how everything is connected. We've had parents come and tell us that their kids won't let them use saran wrap anymore, or straws, or plastic silverware, and that's really amazing to hear that, you know, a 5-year-old student is telling their parents not to use plastic bags. So ocean literate students are now like aware of the 7 principles we talked about earlier. Every single science curriculum from prep to high school, they have a marine science during their year, and every single term, even if it's not related to marine science, we try to make something a cross-curricular lesson incorporating whatever their science is into. So if they're learning about magnetism, then we'll teach them about compasses and about how to navigate the oceans and things like examples like that. They also gain a deeper knowledge of marine ecosystems and marine organisms because they get to see it in person, and a respect for all living creatures. So they can touch the animals and not just be scared of them, because a lot of ocean creatures are not cute and cuddly and fuzzy. They're actually quite off-putting at first, but then you get to see that they're absolutely harmless and they actually provide really essential functions in the sea. And then an increased willingness to work together. So lots of students, this past year we spent a lot of time with middle school students, so ages 10 to 13, and they're more eager to work together. As in the previous presentation we saw that when you put kids together and you give them a project and you give them a goal and they share their passion, they develop bonds where they normally wouldn't. So this is just another picture of our students on a field trip to Paknai, where they collected oyster samples and took them back to the lab, and then they divided up all the animals that they found into different phylums and calculated the biodiversity.
Thank you.
Thank you, both of you. Well, I see there's many facilities in the schools to help the student study STEAM. So I just want to know, is there any opportunity that other students in school nearby can visit your school, or how your student can contribute their findings or what they learned to the community?
So we have our students report to Reef Check. That's one survey that we've started participating in. We also open it up to schools. So I mentioned we had a preschool in the neighborhood that comes by, and we hosted them every Wednesday for a couple months. They got to come in small field trips and do tours. We also have summer camps during the summer that you can sign up for and come to the facility. We're still pretty new and getting our bearings in the school, but this next year we're going to be having professional development for teachers or other educators that want to incorporate aquariums in their school. And we also want to open it up for weekend visits for other schools to come on field trips to do research. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So I think there's more opportunity to benefit more students in the coming
definitely.
now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Maxine, and also Ms. Sarah. Please be seated.